Emma, you like this? Mark, smile. Emma, you see what I have to work with? Hello, everyone.
A very lucky person.
Emma, I'm very lucky to be associated with Mark. I think it's been nearly 2 years, Mark, isn't it? Our live sentence together.
We're into the third season.
And we've had so much fun, Emma. We've been all over the world, and now, Mark, where are we now?
We're in Australia.
We're in Australia. Oh, everyone.
On the Sunshine Coast.
Hold on. Let me do the serious bit, Mark. Hello, everyone. It's Max McGillivray from Beanstalk Global. Today, it is the AHDB Talking Leaders series with the illustrious Mark Campbell and our fantastic guest, Emma Thompson, CEO of the Sunshine Coast Council in Australia. Emma, before we come to you, we want to find out all about you. We want to find out about Sunshine Coast, and we want to find out about Australia. But we better, for the sake of our or Mark, help me, our advertisers, our sponsors, our partners. Can you just tell everyone, Mark, what the purpose is of AHDB and the Talking Leaders series, please?
So the AHDB, we're a levy body that is there to support UK farmers in all sorts of things, and the AgriLeader programme particularly looks at helping improve the capabilities in leadership management and people skills of farmers. And Talking Leaders is bringing people, really interesting people like Emma and the Sunshine Coast Council into the world of the farmers and try and learn bits from them in an interesting way.
And Emma, where this has worked so well is that Mark and his colleague Isaac and the other colleagues within the AHDB, we sort of got a bit of a problem with UK agriculture, Emma, that we can be very blinkered, very, very siloed. And what we're trying to do is bring in really interesting people from places far afield so that we can learn from you and sort of get out of our silo of thinking and sort of better ourselves within UK agriculture. So we thought, as I look out of my window and it's dark and it's rainy, we thought, where else can we go but Australia? So Emma, shall we let me just give the intro on yourself formally, then we can pull back the curtains, for want of a better expression, and find out more about you and the Sunshine Coast. So we're delighted to be joined by Emma Thomas. Emma is the CEO of the Sunshine Coast Council, one of the largest local governments in Queensland, Australia, serving a population in excess of 340,000 residents and one of Australia's fastest growing regions. The Sunshine Coast Council is pursuing a transformational agenda to strengthen the region's economy, improving the region's livability, enabling community connectedness and inclusion, and maintaining an outstanding natural environment and landscape. Prior to joining council, Emma held a range of chief executive and senior executive leadership roles with the Australian Capital Territory, South Australian and Queensland governments. She is a values-based leader, love this, values-based leader with a passion for and committed to sustainable regional economic development and fostering social inclusion, community diversity, connectivity and accessibility. These elements are an integral part of her focus and leadership as Sunshine Coast Council CEO. As the CEO, Emma's responsible for an organisation with a budget in excess of 860 million Australian dollars, more than 6 billion in assets, over 1,800 people, and overseeing one of the most innovative policy programme and infrastructure delivery agendas that seeks to position council as a national leader in local government excellence and the Sunshine Coast as the most livable and sustainable region in Australia, if not the world. Emma, is that a good introduction for yourself?
That's a perfect introduction. I don't know if I need to say any more, Max.
Emma, when I was doing some research on you and the Sunshine Coast and Council, is it a privilege to have this role and to be living and influencing this area of Australia?
It's an incredible privilege to be part of the Sunshine Coast region here. We're in just a beautiful place, and it has been for thousands of years. Our traditional owners, the Cubby people and the Unibara people, and we continue to build and foster our relationships and learn about the 60,000 years of heritage that has brought us to where we are today. But now we have a very strong relationship with our environment, and we prioritise livability amongst all of our things that we do here.
Yeah, well done. And this is something I'm keen for Mark and I and our listeners and our viewers to pick up from yourself, because we know some of the pressures that you're all under on an environmental basis as we are. And I think if we all communicate with each other and learn from you as to what you've learned and perhaps some of the issues that you've managed to overcome, we'll be able to pick up on that as well. But Emma, is there any way that we can, I don't know, find out more about the Sunshine Coast, I don't know, in a pictorial form or a video form? Is there anything that you could suggest that we could see?
Well, we have a fantastic video to share on one of our really prime projects that we're doing around something that we call our Blue Heart project. And I'd love to share that video with you now.
Excellent. Emma, count us down from 5 so we can show this video. Go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Blue Heart Sunshine Coast is a regionally significant place, an innovative project, and an Australian first partnership. Set in the Maroochy River floodplain of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, it's fed by 7 large freshwater streams within a 640 square kilometre catchment between the Blackwall Range and the Coral Sea. Its headwater streams flow down from the hills onto the floodplain, joining into the iconic Maroochy River estuary that stretches 25 kilometres between Yandina and Maroochydore. For tens of thousands of years, the Maroochy River and its floodplain have provided food, shelter, and a spiritual home for the coastal Kabi Kabi peoples. The river and local mountains are significant to the culture and dreaming stories of the Kabi Kabi peoples. Since colonisation, the river and floodplain have been modified in support of timber getting, cattle grazing, farming, and urban settlements. Much of the floodplain was altered during the 1900s for cane farming. This involved cutting in deep channels to drain fresh water off paddocks, with gates at the ends to stop tidal waters coming back in. At the turn of this century, sugarcane farms stretched across most of the floodplain. After the regional sugar mill closed in 2003, land use in the floodplain has diversified to a mix of local and mostly rural uses. Today, the river is a popular recreational destination for locals and visitors who enjoy boating, fishing, swimming, or just relaxing along its foreshores. In 2019, Sunshine Coast Council, Unity Water, and the state government launched Blue Heart Sunshine Coast, an innovative partnership that seeks to work with our local community to get the best possible mix of environmental, social, and economic benefits for the river and floodplain over the next 80 years and more.
So Emma, I love that. I love the way that the video, the way that it showed this great pictorial history of your region, and it's fascinating how it's gone from floodplains to sugarcane to recreation, and I love this the bit that's the video said at the end about the key aims: environmental, social, economic benefits for the river and the floodplain over the next 80 years. So it's not like in some governments where they're just planning 3-4 years out. Your organizations, your partnerships, you're actually planning 80 years out with what you're all looking to do.
I think we all need to take a long-term view on what's happening with our environment. We've recently completed what we call our coastal hazard adaptation strategy, where we look out to 2100 to look at what the sea level rise is going to be, which for us will be about 1.1 metres. And because we are a region that has quite a long piece of coast, as well as hinterland areas where we have a lot of our agriculture business, it's really important for us to understand what the changing landscape is going to look like and be, and provide for us all to be still living in this place.
Yeah, and just a slightly, I don't know what's the right expression, slightly leady. So the area has been very much manipulated by man over the years, and now it is your purpose with yourself and your partners to do good with this land for the long term. Would that be correct?
I think some of the land has been, interfered with or built and inhabited for a number of years, but we do maintain a lot of green space within our region. It's one of our very strong policy positions as a council to maintain that green space, to plant trees. We have one of the largest land care areas in Australia, and so it is it's a predominant feature of people who live here. Find it, it's part of our very strong values.
Yeah. And Emma, is there Isn't there some fantastic stat? I'm probably going to slightly murder this, but doesn't 80% of the population in Australia live 20 minutes from the beach? Or that, creating that problem that presumably lots and lots of people want to move to your area.
Yeah, we have the coastal fringes of Australia are by far the most inhabited, and our region is no different. It's very much a consolidation of our population along the coastal fringe. I was talking earlier that I live in a place called Mooloolaba, which is this beautiful, beautiful beach area, and I would encourage everybody to look it up because it's really one of the best beaches in the world. But we do have a population that spans over a very large area here in the Sunshine Coast. So we do have communities that are within our beautiful Glasshouse Mountains, in our hinterland, that are really different to a beach type culture as well.
Okay, and so you don't think you're going to suffer on an environmental basis? You don't think you're going to suffer anything like overpopulation, are you? You can accommodate the people that want to come in?
I think everybody will suffer from an environmental perspective. We will certainly need to change the way we do things, and this is part of the policy settings and the conversation that we continue to have. We just became last year a biosphere, UNESCO biosphere, which means that we're really dedicated to the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, and that's all about us as human beings living in the landscape in a sustainable way, which means that it's, we always have that eye on the future and an eye on the impact that we have, and making sure that we're sustainable for generations to come.
Yeah. So Mark, in the UK, we've got a really interesting oxymoron that we need the land to grow. But Emma, Mark, you'll know this, that we're short of 4 million houses in the UK for our population needs. And so we've got this oddity that people want to farm, but actually, Mark, in some respects, for farmers, it may be more attractive to actually sell land for housing, but then that depletes the agricultural land, meaning we can't feed as many people. Mark, what's your view on that on the basis of what we're learning from Emma, please?
It is that whole chicken and egg, isn't it? And the population's continuing to grow, but like you say, we just need to feed people, and it's how we balance that out and how we deal with that, which is a massive challenge. Which it's interesting to hear what you guys are doing over on the Sunshine Coast, and how you're being in one of the most sustainable areas in Australia, if not the world, with lots of people wanting to move to that, and how you're thinking very long term to deal with that.
So thank you, Mark. So Emma, that sustainability one of the key factors of your role in the Sunshine Coast Council?
It's absolutely our number one.
Wow.
Our vision is to be the most sustainable region in Australia. And so it drives all of our strategies. But that sustainability is not just about environmental sustainability, it's about our sustainability of being able to accommodate our people, about creating jobs for the future that give people the lifestyle that they want to live here. So it is a very strong balance of a number of different things, but we always come back to sustainability. And to that sustainable growth question, that is probably at the core of what we talk about today, because we do need people to continue to grow and move to the Sunshine Coast to continue our businesses. But one of the very strong parts of our Sunshine Coast economy is our agriculture business. And so we need to make sure that we have a balance of the way we use our land and the way that we accommodate people, and making sure that we have really good design that allows people to live comfortably, but allows more people to live in those spaces. And so we maintain a very strong view of making sure we have green space, whilst consolidating our population growth into various corridors to balance that growth.
Well, thank you, Emma. And with your 340,000 residents, have they all adopted the sustainability message? If we were to pull some people off the street, would they be singing this song as well, or are we still, like we are, I think, in the UK? I'd be interested to get Mark's view. We're still trying to drive the societal change. I think it is coming, but it feels like it's, in some respects, it might be the kids behind us that are going to be that next generation that drives it. And are all of your populists, but behind you, Emma, behind the council?
I think it's a great question. I think for all of us, we're still learning and adapting the way that we live to be more kind to the environment that we're on for the longer term. Just things like use of packaging and whether people take a takeaway coffee cup, all of those things are changes to our lifestyles. And I would say that the people of the Sunshine Coast area are very strongly supportive of the values of environment and nature and maintaining the precious place that we live in. We still have challenges, like in our region, transport is a really big challenge. We don't have many ways of moving around here other than the motor vehicles. So we have the second highest car ownership in Australia. And that is a really big challenge for us, for the lifestyle and for the vision that we have. So we have a very strong focus on how to change the ways in which people move around to give us more opportunities. We can't expect people to change their own ways and habits and behaviours if we don't provide the infrastructure and the ability for them to do that.
Well done. And where Mark was really keen to get yourself on representing the Sunshine Coast Council so we can learn from you. To me, if it's the right expression, you're like the billboard, not just for Australia, but for the rest of the world on a sustainability basis. I always, Mark will have heard me say this before, I always quote Africa. Africa has got the 10 fastest growing cities in the world. And if you visit those cities, it is mad, chaotic. Environmentally, it's a mess. But you can see they're driving societal change by what they're learning from the likes of us and you. So there's the example of Kenya. Kenya stopped using plastic bags, I believe, on the influence of the UK and Europe stopping using plastic bags for shopping some 5 years ago. So it's only small steps, but that's one of the biggest things that you always see in Africa is just this floating plastic bag. You don't see them anymore in Kenya because they've learned from other countries. So again, I think you're a billboard, not just for Australia, but for the rest of the world. But do you I'm guessing, have you done the easy fixes? Is what you want to do now to further the sustainability goals? Is it now the hard miles or the hard kilometers that you've got to go, and you've got to be courageous to go to that next step to achieve what you want to achieve? Have you got these hard kilometers to go now?
I think there's a balance of easier things and harder things. I think we all need to believe that we can do things differently and that we can change. And I think the core of it is really having that long-term planning and having the conversations with community and all walking together towards a goal. And having a framework like the Biosphere framework helps us really understand how we're meeting those targets every day. But there's things that we can do all the time, and I think we have to have great optimism. I love your point about Kenya. I think there's so much to learn from everywhere around the world. No one group is doing things perfectly and has the license of all the good ideas. We all can learn from each other, and collaboration is king really in this environment. And the fact that we can connect across the globe so easily like this to have this conversation, what's stopping us from doing that on a 1,000 scale perspective to get better ideas?
Yes, Emma, this completely makes me tickle because I did my college placement year on cotton in northern New South Wales. It's a fine area, but I know that the Sunshine Coast is better. But I remember I used to use the office phone to ring my parents, and then my employers found out and handed me back the bill. Rightly so, but it's amazing that we can talk on Zoom like this in real time. Mark, what do you think in the respect of sustainability? I just get this feeling that Emma, or am I going to say this, is leaps and bounds in front of us on a sustainability element in comparison to us. And it feels like they've got a real partnership going on there. Mark, I'm not trying to drag politics into this, but do you think that government within the UK could do more to drive sustainability, to drive this societal change so that we can catch up with Emma? What do you think, Mark?
I think we can always do more. And yes, I do think on a personal perspective that from what we've heard and what we know about Emma and the Sunshine Coast, that they are a few steps ahead of us all. But it's that whole change piece, isn't it? Everyone doesn't want to make the first move or doesn't know which direction to make that first step. It's such a vast topic and such a varied area to actually try and achieve what Emma's trying to achieve is very, very difficult. So yeah, I think there's more that we could do, and I think we need to be bold and brave to set that goal out and have that long-term view of where we want to get to.
Yeah, but and Emma, go back to positively accusing you all of being the billboard, not for Australia, for the rest of the world. We always say on these broadcasts, I always come up with this example of in Holland they have the Dutch diamond, which is a link between government, education, and industry, and they work in a great symbiotic manner. We're a bit fragmented like that within the UK. Do you have the same in Australia and with the Sunshine Coast? Do you have that good link with government, education, and industry? Is that helping you prosper and to achieve your goals in the Sunshine Coast?
Having lived in the Netherlands, it's part of the Dutch culture that working together is so strong. And so, that is something that I think we can all aim for, to work better together. I wouldn't be too harsh on the United Kingdom. I've seen some fantastic examples of I had the great opportunity to do a study tour last year of infrastructure over there, and saw Birmingham and the changes that have been made there, and the government's working together at all levels, and using the opportunity of the Commonwealth Games to really shift and change. And so I feel very positive and optimistic about the way the UK works together on this. But every example in the world where things happen well have government, education, and the people working together really well. And so I think everyone aims to do that. Having stable long-term government leadership is really key to that, or leadership across all of those sectors, actually. If you have people that know and trust each other and can build those relationships and keep progressing together on a common vision, then that is really the key to all good endeavours, actually. So, I think there's great examples around the world. We can always do better. We have pockets of fantastic collaboration, and we have areas where we still need to work better together.
Yeah, Emma, well done. And you just reminded me of something. We're in the middle of the Eurovision Song Contest. So help me with this one, Emma. We're going to slightly off segue here. It's the Eurovision Song Contest, but Australia is in it for the first year. How does that work? Mark, have you got any idea?
Oh, it's not the first year, Max.
Oh, isn't it? Oh, sorry.
It's like the third or the fourth year.
Oh, sorry.
Australians are just as bemused. I think it gives someone to vote for when they don't want to vote for anyone else. But, it's great for us to have the ability. Eurovision Song Contest is a bit legendary in Australia for, we love the quirkiness of it and the diversity of acts that you see. So it's always been very popular down here. But I'm still not sure myself how we're participating in it, but very happy to.
Excellent. And the reason for mentioning the Eurovision Song Contest and the entry from Australia for the third year running is that the competition is all set up on a carbon neutral basis. So I've been deriding the UK, but we must just pick up on the positives that Emma's just saying and use that shining example. And for those on the podcast, Mark is currently dressed as a Eurovision ABBA singer. And he's very fitting, Emma, for those on the podcast, isn't he? I've never seen a better ABBA sing. So that segues us nicely onto carbon and the race to net zero. So within the UK, and I'm going to be positive, Emma, I'm learning from you, that our government and various businesses, they've got this big chase to get to net zero. But I'm guessing you're looking to do the same. Do you think it's achievable within the Sunshine Coast Council and your remit? Is it achievable to achieve net zero for yourselves?
I want to put that in a way of how can it not be? What happens if we don't get to zero? Yeah. So we have to, again, believe that we can do it. And, human beings are very, very creative and innovative creatures. And I think if we all set ourselves the targets, we'll get there. There's a lot to be done, and there's a lot of different ways to address this. But I think understanding the priorities, setting in place the strategies, and then working towards that is the way that we're going to do it. We have to get to some way to that target, and there's going to be that last little bit that will be hard to do, I'm sure, but people are thinking about that all the time. We'll get there.
It's those tough kilometers as I said before. Mark, with carbon neutrality in the UK, you and I have seen a lot of businesses looking to go down this route. Mark, let's get some experiences from you. If it's okay to just mention, you've just been to a major UK conference, agricultural conference. Was there a lot of talk in that about carbon neutrality?
Yeah, massive amounts. Yeah, I was at the last couple of days at conference, Pigs Tomorrow, focusing on our pig sector and the innovations that's seeing. And actually, we had a presentation earlier today from a big genetics company with a big arable operation, and they've set their ambitions to be net zero by 2030. And this is on 28,000 sows and about 14,000 hectares of arable land, and they're well on the way to looking at all the credentials to be able to do that across the whole business, which is an integrated supply chain. They're growing their own feed to feed back to the pigs to then rear and things like that. But very, very, very interesting. And yes, it's definitely possible. But like Emma says, you've got to be bold and brave and ambitious. And the human mind is very adapting when it needs to be. So yeah, some really interesting stuff.
Thank you, Mark. And Emma, coming back to the Sunshine Coast, I feel like I'm reiterating my questions, but we need to learn from you with this mission to get to net zero. Have you found that an easy push with your community and with your other leaders? Or have you had to or are you still educating some people that we have to adopt this? There's only one plan A. There's no plan B. Is this a difficult movement that you're having to create within the Sunshine Coast?
I think it's been difficult across Australia in our culture. There's been quite a long-term discussion about climate change, but I think we've turned the corner. Our national government just announced as part of their budget initiatives a net zero authority to be created to really focus everyone's efforts on this. So I think we'll see a lot more action and activity taken, but we've still got a way to go. And like I said, if we're not producing real opportunities for people to change the way that we do things, then we can't expect people to just do that themselves. So we need to be able to create those pathways and make things a lot more understandable and simple, create the opportunities to change, where it be in the case of our Blue Heart video, you would have seen sugarcane farming, which has really changed its viability, I suppose, within our region. And we're shifting to a proposed way of blue carbon farming, which is something that has never been created before. So we will have to be doing different things, and the next generation of people coming through are already so much more connected to artificial intelligence and working out different ways to do things. So it's pretty exciting to see that group of that cohort of people coming through our organisation and shifting the way that we think as well.
Yeah, Emma, well done. You stole my thoughts, because we're seeing so many of the younger generation. They're being so selective as to even what universities they go to if they're going to go down that route, and even more so what companies they want to get a job with. In that, if those companies don't have a sustainability vision goal and a carbon drive to neutrality, they won't join those companies. And some of those companies are scratching their heads as to why can't we get these younger graduates? Why are they going over to these companies? Oh, because they've got a sustainability agenda. And yeah, so we're going to. And just as per the example that Mark's given, if we've got bigger companies in the UK looking to drive that, you can see how that's going to influence smaller companies. And then going back to my African example, is going to go to drive chains and other countries. So Emma, I love what you say. So you're very positive that you're going to get what you want in the terms of sustainability and carbon neutrality within the period of time that you're set. You're confident of those targets, are you?
Well, I don't know about the word confident. I think we just all need to keep working, measuring. If we don't measure and if we don't set targets, we're not very good at heading in that direction. So the fact that we've worked really hard to become a UNESCO biosphere, we're working on our sustainability development goals, We've set ourselves targets within the organisation. We're working very hard on transport and mobility solutions to help people have other options. I think we've got all of the building blocks to get there. We need to continue to understand how the earth will be shifting and changing, how the science might be adapting over time to all the different factors and forces that come into this, to any other big world events such as pandemics. We've really got to work through and continue to be alive to change. We always talked in my early years about the only thing that's constant is change. And I think we see that at a more escalating level. I don't like to be really fixed or rigid in our views. We should be developing strategies that can change and that we can run harder or change directions if we need to along the way.
Yeah, well, Emma, well done. I always say the only thing you can predict is change. And just to emphasize Emma's point, I meant to mention it earlier, when we were looking at Emma's video before we went live today, if you look at the social media for the Sunshine Coast Council, especially on YouTube, there's a whole raft of really interesting videos, and they're hugely informative. So going back to what we said earlier about perhaps a little bit myopic in the UK, if you just want to see something slightly different and how a land far away is making a difference I think in quite difficult circumstances, as was, and they've made a real difference to the point of some of these global awards that they're now attracting. Have a look at the social media of the Sunshine Coast Council. Emma, if it's okay, can we just segue onto leadership, because this is a very topical comment that always comes up within our group within agriculture. Because what we tend to have is we have farms, and there will be potentially a farming family, and it's either a father or son and daughter have sort of inherited the leadership role, but they might not have had any training. They might have gone off to college or university to get education. But leadership is so you can't go and do a day course or learn it on YouTube or do a 3-4 year degree. To some degree, leadership. You've held some fascinating roles, and you look at your role now. What do you think is tell us what you think is the secret to leadership?
The secret to leadership. You have to have a heart and realize that leadership is around people, and you can't lead. You can't lead widgets or rocks. It's all about leading human beings who have hearts and minds and, their own aspirations and their own thoughts. And so fundamentally to anyone, when I'm interviewing leaders, I look for language that talks about people, because if they don't actually think about people, then that's not part of the mix. But the other secret to me is that you have to lead early and lead in as many different circumstances as possible, because the best leaders come from, the ones that make lots of mistakes and learn from them. It's a lifelong learning activity, and it's also a creative art. So it's sort of being open to using your creativity to adapt to different situations, owning your errors and mistakes, and being a real person.
Yeah, well done. And I remember going to a lecture some years ago, and our telecommunications company in the UK, BT, we had I think it was the chief financial officer came and presented to us, and he says that he thinks that it is so difficult to communicate a company culture through leadership if you've got a team of over 450 people, let alone if you've got a myriad of different sites, let alone if you're over 10,000 people. Well, you've got 1,800 people under your jurisdiction, under your control, and presumably there are lots of different departments. I'm guessing you've got a cracking senior management team, have you, that work with you in unison, have you?
That is a beautiful way to put them. I'm going to tell them that today, that they are a cracking leadership team. They are a cracking team. And I have a cracking, one of my 1,800 people are cracking people. They believe in the values, they believe in the vision for our region, and they all work incredibly hard to serve our people of the Sunshine Coast region every day. We just recently reset and had a relook at our values and what was driving us and what we needed to go into the future. And we did that across all of our teams. We didn't we allowed every one of those 1,800 people to have a say in what we thought the values
Brilliant.
should be of the organisation. And we've got a great set of values now that I think will take us forward for the next 5-10 years to come. Maybe we need to change along the way, but for now they're really defining the way that we work every day.
Emma, well done. I'm only a bloke with a mic, but I just think the whole thing about values, and I love what you say about getting every one of those 1,800 people to contribute, is so important, rather than mission statements. Do you remember mission statements when you'd sort of email out, or they'd be back of a pay slip or something really weird, and people weren't bought into that. Whilst if you engage with people and take them on that journey, I think, Mark, what do you think? I think that's brilliant, and we can learn from that on a farming perspective, can't we? That's Mark, I'm winging this as normal. If a farm is looking to create that culture, that community within their business, if they ask all of their team what the values are, that the owners think our values are this, what do you all think, and come to a common set of values, and you don't have to stick it on a wall, but just keep on reiterating it at team meetings and health and safety meetings to reiterate those values that everyone's bought into. Mark, do you think that's inspired?
Hugely inspired, because if everyone's got common values and common things involved, then they're going to all drive together and work towards those common goals collaboratively, because it's part of what they want out of life. So massively important to align and get people to surround people that have those same beliefs and those values. Definitely.
Yeah, I didn't really want to mention this, but there's a chap of mine who's not a very good leader in his own words, and he always says that the best thing about running a business is employing people, and the worst thing about running a business is employing people. But I think the problem is with him. Well, so if he was you, I could just see what you would do, and you would revolutionise that team by just identifying with everyone what the strengths and weaknesses are, and collating them and bringing them as a team. Emma, you know what I'm gonna ask next. Advice. You've been around the world, and you got this cracking role. There you go, cracking role of CEO of the Sunshine Coast. How can we be better led in this new world by we're in such a transformational period. There's so much more that we can do post the pandemic. What do you think, and how we can be better led in the new world by, I don't know, industry leaders and government leaders? Is there some magic dust, or have you already told us what that magic does? How can we be better led, Emma?
I think we've talked about a lot of the words today that you might have heard throughout the whole discussion. Courage is really important. If we're living up to the things that happen on a day-to-day basis, or what we consider the future to be, we have to be courageous. We have to collaborate. That collaboration word is happening more and more. In fact, I think the young people call it a collab, but it's collaboration is king, and it's the way that we can do things, find strange things to mix together to be better. We have to care, we have to be kind. Yeah. That kindness is disappearing when people get frustrated or stressed, and the cost of living goes up. We've sort of regressed back into ourselves a little bit, and I think we need to be more caring than ever about our human condition. And then my favorite word for the time that we're in at the moment, and one of our strong values now, is curiosity. Brilliant. We have to be curious. We have to ask why. I say to my teams, we have to bring out our best 3-year-old and ask why 1,000 times, so that we can just try and understand rather than judge on face value what's going on, because things are not as they have always been, and that requires a very curious mind.
So, Mark, isn't that's beautiful, isn't it? A curious mind.
It's fantastic. I mean, it's what we need to be. If you don't ask why, and if we don't question those things, you're never going to open up those bits of magic to help you push forward to the next level.
To Emma, we're just running out of time. We've stolen enough of your time already, and you've got a hard day's work in front of you. But we just want to find out one thing from you, from everything that you've learned in your roles and this role of CEO Sunshine Coast Council. What would you say to the people listening in as to how they can be better people and run better businesses from what you've learned in your career, please?
Oh, there's so many building blocks to every person. So being able to be self-aware and understand your own reactions and behaviors and your own understanding and where your own needs are is very important. I think we don't take enough time to sort of tap into our own emotional states or other things. And then more broadly, the world is a really big place, but it's very well connected. And just taking time out to look at what other people are doing and how other things are happening for all of us. No one is perfect. We are not perfect. No one is perfect around the place. But we all do these gems of things that if we brought them together and learnt more from one another, we would be able to get ahead a lot faster, I suppose. And so I think the old wisdom where people from day dot have sat in circles and shared stories is still, working for us.
Yeah, Emma, there was a report recently in the UK that showed that those individuals that had a really good, strong social group had far better health and far better longevity age-wise. And I think this is something that Mark and I and Mark's colleagues have found that within farming communities in the UK, you can get very isolated and you're just busy the whole time. Whilst if you can actually take some time out and meet some different people and listen to these sort of broadcasts, listen to the likes of yourself, you're actually going to be stimulated. You're going to be curious, as you say, and it's going to make you come back to your business, and you're going to become better leaders. And by implication, you're going to have a better business. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And those points that you've just covered, being curious and listening and talking, like you say, Max, stepping out of the business, getting off the treadmill, because it's so easy to just work harder and stay in that groove, is the way that we can see the wider picture. And that's really, really important. And we see, we need to do that more and more in all organisations, but particularly in agriculture.
Emma, I'm just going to give you a great example. I've just remembered we've got a fantastic dairy near where we are in the UK, and the owner hadn't been away for 8 years, and he took his wife to Australia and hired a VW van, and he went up to the Sunshine Coast. He traveled the whole of the east coast of Australia, did it for a month, came back a changed man, and already in the space of 2 months the business has been revolutionized because he's just come back a completely different person, because he spent his time there thinking about how they can progress the business. Just like as we saw in the video, environmental, social, economic benefits for the river and the floodplain over the next 80 years. This is we're all on a journey, aren't we? And we've all got to plan for the future and enjoy it as we go. Emma, you've been fantastic. Before you go, what's your prediction? Do you think Australia are going to win the Eurovision this year?
Well, that's always a possibility. I think Eurovision is very hard to speculate who wins, isn't it? From my sort of short understanding of it, I don't think anyone ever gets it quite right. It's always a surprise.
It's always
but being a mad keen ABBA fan, I'm right on it.
Okay, well, we'll get we'll get the super ABBA fan to wrap up for us. Mark, wrap up for us, please.
Excellent. No, thank you very much, Emma. And it's been really fascinating to listen to you and what you and the 1,800 fantastic people at the Sunshine Coast Council are actually doing, where you're setting long-term goals, but working hugely collaboratively to actually achieve those and creating those opportunities, but always putting people at the heart to be more curious and to open up the opportunities to achieve all the challenges that the world's chucking at us, that we need to address and we need to keep moving forward to do. But it's been a great pleasure to have you on, and thank you for your time.
And Emma, if it's okay to say, we're going to organise a farm tour to the Sunshine Coast, Australia. We're setting off. What day is it? We're set off Saturday, so we'll be with you sort of Sunday, Monday, and there'll only be 2,500 of us. So if you could be ready for us, that'd be great.
Well, we have a thriving food and agribusiness network here. Well, we welcome you to come here and visit, and I'm sure our people could learn a lot in visiting back. I just have enormous gratitude for our whole agriculture business across the globe.
Yeah.
We probably don't say thank you enough to the people who feed us and clothe us and provide everything for us in our environment. So thank you very much to everyone out there for the work that you do.
No problem. So Emma, thank you for that. Thank you very much to yourself, Sunshine Coast Council. Can I give a big shout out to Karen, your colleagues Karen and Tamara, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have been able to get this. And it's amazing that we're, whatever it is, 22,000 miles from each other, but we can have this. So I know the conversations, we had a bit of a satellite delay, but it all worked and we've learned so much from you. Can I just tell everyone to go have a look at the Sunshine Coast Council Australia social media, because you've just been blown away by it and you'll want to go out and visit. Emma, you've been fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Max. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.